Good morning and welcome everyone to Unique Peace. I am Janice. I am a Reiki Master Teacher and Psychic Medium here on Long Island. And today I'm very excited to have Rob Moschetti on the show. He is the bassist for M.O.D, Method of Destruction. And for those of you who do know me, I am a big metalhead, not your typical metalhead. I am very peaceful. I am very zen. And so it is going to be nice to have a fellow metalhead talk peace with me today. So join me in welcoming Rob Moschetti to the show. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Good morning to you.
Good morning. Um, Good morning, Michael. So when you look at me, you don't automatically think metal, but my favorite type of music is heavy metal. So I do believe that there is something to be said about how metal music can bring a lot of peace, and that it is an avenue to get rid of those bad vibes. So tell us a little bit about how you came into heavy metal and your story and how it brings you peace.
Well, for me, as a little kid, it was like a fantasy. Honestly, it was, like any fantasy like a little kid has of being an astronaut or being president or whatever. I just assumed that every kid wanted to be a rock star once they like got their first Kiss album or inherited their first Kiss albums like I did. And early on, I noticed it brought me this euphoric feeling just as a listener before I even learned how to play. It would take me away mentally, and it was very healing. For I didn't have a rough childhood. I had a great childhood, but just the stresses of being a little kid and insecure and being not really liking school all that much and all that. But you put on those headphones, it was therapeutic for me. And you know 50 years later, it still serves the same purpose for me as a listener daily and as a writer. So it's saved me, therapy, medications, and it really does soothe me. But I use not just heavy metal, I use different music for different days, and I'll explain that as we go on. But certain days, if you're having a rough day, I don't usually go to heavy metal. I'll go to something to calm me down.
Right.
If I need something to amp me up, then I'll do the heavy metal route. But if I'm road raging, I'm gonna have to catch myself, which every day for me it's work to try to maintain some cool. Some people, when you lose that filter in your brain, saying, "Wait a minute, what are you doing here?" When you lose that, you're gone. You know what I mean? So at least I still have that filter where I'm like, "All right, calm down." I'll put on my '70s pop station on Pandora or Spotify, and it immediately brings me back to 1978 summer when I'm a little kid, when those songs were new on the radio, and it just, it takes me away.
No, but that's very true. That's very true. Is different types of music do different types of things depending on your situation.
Absolutely.
Obviously, if you're gonna meditate, you're not gonna be listening to any sort of music with lyrics unless it's very soothing.
Yeah.
And for road rage, like you were just alluding to, I guess I would go to, like, an 80s station, but I tend to like
Well,
scream.
just the other day, I had a horrible long day, and then driving home in traffic, and I'm looking for something to listen to. And I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, me and one of my friends, he wanted to do a Christmas CD. So he knew I had the studio, and we basically took karaoke music. He sang on it. His name's Mike Assalone. We call him Bundy. And he sang on it. And for some reason, there were like 20-second blank spaces between each song. And I'm like, all right, we got to do something in these spaces. And we wrote these very quick, corny, stupid little skits that turned out to be the best part of the CD. So I'm driving home. I wanted to murder somebody in my brain, and I put that on, and I'm laughing, and you get this Christmas music, this guy who, no offense, Mike, who really can't sing, and then these stupid skits in between the songs. I was like, I texted him. I go, yo, the very Bundy Christmas just saved me from going postal on the highway. I said, it's perfect when you're stuck in traffic. I go, because you can't be mad when you're listening to this stupidity.
That's great. That's great. And so there's a difference between covering songs and then writing songs.
Yeah.
And so we haven't really gotten too much into how you became a bassist other than that's what your goal in life was to become a rock star.
All right.
But
But bass was
when
by default. Like nobody wanted to be the bass player. I was playing guitar, and we were going in to do a demo for some songs I wrote, and they're like, "We don't even have a bass player." I'm like, "I'll do it." It's a watered down version of the guitar if you allow it to be. I advanced on that further, but I just did it because nobody was doing it. And then another band needed a bass player when that band I was in broke up, and I was like, "I'll do it." And then it just kind of
that's
went
how it
from,
progressed.
it went from Kill Power to Mutilation to M.O.D. And you know, I jumped back on guitar when Propane stole me from M.O.D. Because they knew I had played basically every instrument. I would have played
And
drums for them if they asked.
that's amazing. So have you always written songs or was that just a jumping point? It's like, okay, I'm playing music now I want to write music.
All right. Well, middle school, when you're getting your chops and you're trying to figure out your path, I learned cover songs, but not properly. I didn't buy books. I would just listen. I don't read music. I write music in my head, and I'm able to translate what I hear to my hands in my whatever instruments in front of me. So junior high up until 12th grade, I was doing cover songs, and I think it was just to not. I wasn't thinking about writing my own material because it was still a fantasy. Um, but then after 12th grade, we played a battle of the bands with my high school band, and we won that. And then we were getting offers to go out and play, 17-year-old kids to go out and play bars and parties and stuff. And I was like, right there was a crossroads for me. I was like, I don't want to be a jukebox. I don't want to play to the back of people's heads while they're eating chicken wings. You know what I mean? I want to interact with people. So immediately 12th grade started writing songs and started a band with high school friends. And the songs were decent, but it's like any craft. When you start acting or doing comedy or music, it's going to be bad at first. It's very rare you come out and you're just incredible. But we were just learning how to structure songs. And um, so around 1987 is when I started writing songs. And then what happened was, within a year, that band Molester, horrible name, we were opening for the bands we were listening to in high school, which was baffling to us. We were just in the woods drinking beer and smoking to SOD, MOD included, Anthrax, Metallica, Slayer, Nuclear Assault, Mucky Pup, like all of them. And then the bands that we idolized, we were getting opening slots for, and we're like, whoa, this is incredible. But the only reason I made a demo was to get a gig at the China Club in Jersey. Like I wanted to play there, and they're like, well, we need a demo. It's kind of like your resume.
Right.
So the only reason I made a demo was to go play a gig. It wasn't to get a record deal or anything like that. So it just slowly escalated, and when Molester was moving, so, for really horrible reasons, the band had broken up. And a day later, I saw the guitar player in Kill Power, and he's like, our bass player just quit, and we got gigs booked. I was like, I'll do it. And he's like, you play bass? I said, yeah, I played bass on all our demos, and I just want to play. I can't not be in a band. I've been in a band since I'm 12. I need to, I need to be in a band. So immediately jumped in Kill Power, and it was very short lived because my closer friends in Mutilation were like this close to a record deal, and they were very good. So they asked me to join, and I jumped ship to go do that. And then when M.O.D came knocking, same thing. I had to jump ship, which is, early on I was very ruthless when it came to like furthering my music career. But as I joined those other bands, my own writing kind of took a back seat because those bands were already established and successful. So I would contribute, as I still do with M.O.D, but I get my writing out with my own project, Rob Moschetti solo project. I write music for my wife's project, Destroy Myself Canceled. That's where I really get my writing out. I see myself more of like a performing artist with M.O.D because I'm playing other people's material. So it's not like a cover band though, because I'm in the band and it's, a nationally known band. So like I said, I use it for I use my own projects for getting my own thoughts out lyrically, uh, bearing my soul on my solo record. You know what I mean? I don't do that with these other bands.
No, I was gonna ask you, you have the new album that came out, Prisoner to No One. Was
Yeah.
that very I'm sure that
Oh
was
my God.
therapeutic, but did that bring peace to your life?
Yeah, it was brutal. In 2015. I lost two of my brothers closest to me in age.
Oof,
Um, Within
sorry.
3 months, I lost two brothers. So my family, there's five boys, and all of a sudden, two of them, one I shared a bedroom with, and the other one was the next in age, and they were the ones who came to my shows and had to deal with me practicing in the house as a kid for years, and it drove them nuts, honestly. But then years later, when they're backstage with me and drinking and eating and just watching what's going on, it was so rewarding for me to share that with them. But that year was horrible for me, and for 7 years, I was kind of just dry. I had nothing to write about, but I was just writing down lyrics and ideas, but I was uninspired because I was just so broken. And then the guy who taught me how to play guitar had passed away. And I wrote a song for him, but just for his family, for his sisters, for myself, for my wife. We all love this guy. I owe my life in music to this guy, Albert DeSalvo. He taught me how to play when I was really young, just for fun. And when he died, I wrote this song, and it's very mellow. It's called One Day. It's the one acoustic track, second to last on the album. It sticks out like a sore thumb, which I like, because I don't want the record to be all the same flavor.
Right.
And after I wrote that song, it was as if I didn't hear a voice or anything, but it was as if he pushed me to keep going, continue, keep going, keep going. So I had met my wife, and I was pretty much not done with music. I was just kind of on a hiatus after my brothers had passed. She didn't get to know them yet. They were gone already. So she met me at my lowest point, and she turned my life around. Just her presence, and her daughter's presence. Now, um, I had to explain to her. I go, yo, I'm gonna write a record and record a record, and it's not gonna be pretty. So I'm just fair warning. I'm obsessed when it comes to this. It's like I'm having an exorcism. I gotta get everything out, and I may not pay attention to other things for a little bit. And she's like, cool, just because I've been helping her with her record, but that's different.
Right.
This I'm like a mad scientist. Like guitars, keyboards, writing, this, that. Shut up! I got an idea. Like totally obsessed. This record is the most cathartic, real, therapeutic. I mean, I can go through the entire album, like song for song, and explain like very briefly. Prisoner to No One is just something like not letting anything in life hold you back, whether it be other people, um, mishaps in your life, death, illnesses. It was a quote that I used to my wife. Every move we made that we tried to team up with someone to further that project, it was a brick wall a lot of times, or it was interference. So I said, let's just do it ourselves. And then she said, I'm starting my own record label. And I'm like, you're a prisoner to no one. And we kind of lived our life by that, where it was like, we're not relying on anyone. If you want to get something done, you do it yourself. You know,
That
it, little by little, things just came into place with that record. And then I got to breathe when it was done and when it was released. And now I could listen to it objectively as a listener, not the creator. And
Mm,
I think it's a cool 40-minute journey into my life. It's not just me singing about fairies and dragons and, you know, things that happened in the Middle Ages. You know, that works for some bands, but
yeah.
the way I write, and unfortunately, tragedy sparked my creativity because I used it. I wrote the record for myself. I wrote it to heal.
I have written an entire collection of poetry that is very cathartic in the same way.
You know,
Tragedy fueled that. I
yeah,
just want to take a moment. Michael's in. He remembers propane and the crossover and the blurring of the lines there.
yeah.
And he also became a bassist because there were guitar players were dime a dozen at that
Everyone wanted to be the singer or the guitar
time.
player, and the bassist is a very unrewarding instrument if you let it. You know,
If you let it, yep.
I love it.
So, Rob, how do you personally? What's your personal definition of peace?
Okay, I figured this out after my brothers had passed, and it sounds morbid, but I kind of understood why people who are going through severe trauma mentally end their lives, because when you say, "Oh, the pain, I can't take the pain," I used to be like, "Oh, what a wuss! What are you talking about? The pain? You're so dramatic." No, it's physical pain.
Mhm.
I never realized it till I
Uh-oh. I'll wait for him to come
was
back.
you. Okay, E-
There we are.
every breath I took was misery and pain, and I figured out that in between breaths, that pause, that neutral when you go out and stop.
We lost Rob for a minute. I'll wait for him to come back. In my question to the people watching is, what's your favorite type of music? Or do you have a favorite type of music, and how does that bring you peace? If you want to share that with us. Personally, I've always gone very polyamorous, but I always circle back to metal, especially when I want to shake off the bad vibes. It helps me to get out the anger and shift back into a positive force in life. And it's very cathartic. Like Rob was discussing, music can be very cathartic, and writing is very cathartic. And I'm just curious, how do you get it out? Ambient sleep music, but starting off heavy. Do you think that as we've gotten older, your musical tastes have changed? I know that I've added more music into my life that you wouldn't normally associate me with. I mean, I listen to a little bit more of edgier pop music. When I was growing up, I wanted nothing to do with the top 40. My cousins listened to New Kids on the Block and New Edition, and I listened to them only if I was in the car and I'm not in control of the radio. Yes, agreed. And so as we move forward in musical tastes and musical genre, we learn that some stuff brings us up and some stuff brings us down, and then there's always our middle. And there is a wonderful show on YouTube, or a channel on YouTube, called The Psychology of Rock, and she breaks down the different subgenres within metal. She also talks about how basically about 80% of us metalheads are peaceful people, and the reason we are peaceful people is because we get our aggression out through listening to heavy metal. I have another friend who is very much a very happy person like me, because we listen to very angry music, as she said, and it's very cute. So Michael's also different music for different emotions. Yes, and also different times of the day. You won't find me listening to heavy metal at night trying to go to bed. Now, a younger me would have. The current me can't, because then I'll be awake. It's like coffee for the brain. People could find family metal through clothing, t-shirts. Yes, yes. And it is a community movement. It is a community movement. If you go to a metal concert or a metal festival and you watch the mosh pit or mosh pits, depending on where you're at, it's very interesting because they will suddenly organize. It goes from a mess to organizing itself. And you sit back and watch what's happening. It's like organized chaos. And everybody is welcome to be part of the organized chaos. And as long as you don't treat it like a punk concert, it's pretty fun experience. So so I think Rob is going to try and come back on here in a minute. We're going to give him a minute. And what do you guys find yourself listening to that surprises you? Like when you were younger, oh, I'm never going to listen to that. I will be honest, I never thought I would say that I'm listening to any sort of I back in the day when people would say, "Oh yeah, I thought I was going to be listening to so and so forever," and now I'm listening to and see, I love Carly Simon, so I'm gonna use Carly Simon, but there was one person in my life like, "I'm never gonna listen to Carly Simon," is now a very big Carly Simon fan. So
Yeah. I want to know one thing about, like, when I go to the '70s station, I'll hit Carole King, and
oh,
I'm like,
she's
wow, has this woman ever had a relationship that worked out? Because I'm really listening to the lyrics. I'm like, oh my God, this poor woman. It sounds like she's never really found love.
love. Welcome back.
But she's writing her life and her feelings. But I want to give her a big hug and say, oh.
Well, that's another thing. I obviously write in a different vein, but that's another thing to touch upon is when we're writing and we're writing through the pain, it is very cathartic and we get it out. But as a conscious and very alert listener, I do pay attention to the lyrics of what I'm listening to. And that's aside from the sound, kind of what helps me figure out if I resonate. Because there's a lot of metal music that doesn't resonate with me. So it's like, okay, that exists, but I don't listen to it. And there's a lot of popular music where I'm asking fellow parents, like, are you paying attention to what they're saying?
Yeah,
So,
well, I was never a big fan of lyric videos until I saw how effective they are, because I really make a conscious effort to try to make it so that people can understand what I'm saying without having to read it. But there's a lot of bands out there where you can't understand what the hell they're saying. So the lyric videos really help. And my wife did a track, and I said, I think maybe we should do a lyric video to this because the lyrics are just so powerful. And I said, I'm not saying that we can't understand what you're saying, but if there's any doubts of, a word or a phrase, I go, people need to rehear this. And she, maybe, I don't know if she was reluctant to it. She kind of, takes my advice, like, just because of the experiences I've had. And she was like, wow, the lyric video really is having an effect on people. And I was like, good, because the words, she's the same way where, I had written a song that I wasn't going to use for myself, and I showed it to her, and she liked it. I said, you should do it. She goes, yeah, but those words don't apply to me. Uh, I don't want to sing. I don't like singing stuff that means nothing to me, because then it's just fake. And I was like, wow, I taught you well, my son.
awesome. One more time, what's the name of your wife's band?
Destroy Myself Canceled, which is basically a healing name, because when you're young and you're going through stuff, you punish yourself, and you, with either drugs or alcohol or just abusing your body and your mind and your soul. And she came to a point with music, because it healed her. she's like, no more. Destroy myself, gone, no more. So, being that we were working with Darryl McDaniels from Run DMC, he took part in 2 songs on her record. Everything he does is DMC, DMC. Darryl makes cookies, Darryl makes comics, Darryl's music company, everything's DMC. So
Yes.
we wrote, me and her wrote D words, M words, and C words on a list, and we were like, dog makes crap. No, 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 like it's just everything. We were just, and all of a sudden, like both of us were like, "Oh my god, destroy myself, canceled." Oh my god, that's perfect. And we presented it to D like, "What do you think of this?" And he goes, "Oh, that's a cool name." I said, "Yeah, because you went through the same thing. I mean, that guy was drinking himself to death." And the doctor told him, your pancreas is shot. You have pancreatitis. You drink, you die.
Hmm.
So he's like, and I told him, I said, yeah, destroy myself, cancel, no more, no more, no more. And now the guy's the most positive, uplifting guy in the world. Like he's uplifting, not just for us musically, just his way of life it's very uplifting, positive. I love being around the guy. He makes everybody around him feel important because everybody is important.
Yes. Yes. And so as you were defining peace before we lost you.
Yeah.
You can kind of finish that thought so that we can kind of discuss
Okay.
how you bring peace into your life.
All right. Well, like I said, I don't know where you lost me, but I figured out that breathing technique I was doing, where in between breaths, was the only moment of peace when I was going through that stuff with my brothers. So I figured out slowing down my breathing instead of, like, I wasn't hyperventilating. It just was concentrating on my heartbeat, and every other thought was about my brothers, and it was really sad and painful and causing physical pain in my stomach. But I noticed that the pain had gone away in between breaths, that pause between. So I use that still today when I'm getting hyped up for silly reasons, like kind of don't sweat the small stuff thing. And,
Mhm.
I figured out every shitty day, every shitty work day comes to an end. And, why am I going to get all worked up and be impulsive? But what slows it all down is taking that pause in between breaths. That brings me peace. And then I said earlier, I don't know if I lost you. It's like, now I understand why people off themselves, because they figured out that not breathing is when they're not in pain. And that I was at that point until I met my wife. I was completely broken, lost, hurting, in physical pain, in mental pain. And then in an instant of meeting her and her daughter, who's now my daughter, my life completely changed. But if I do get worked up, I developed this filter now where it's like, okay, chill, take a deep breath, pause between. But I don't say that. I just do it. But in my brain, it takes a little bit of an effort to put yourself in that place instead of just going with the anger and the rage. Once you lose that filter, or you're gone. You can't control your anger. You can't. If you're able to just say, wait a minute, what's the end game here in your head? You slow things down, and that's how I find peace. And like I said, I'm at peace this very second. I'll take that. That's not day to day. It's minute by minute.
Yes.
That's how I look at it, and I try to share that with my wife too.
Mm, yeah. And how do you bring peace to other people?
Um, with laughter. Like, I love making people laugh. You know what I mean? Like, I'll sacrifice my own, you know, reputation or whatever for the laugh. So other people's laughter makes me happy. And if you're a musician, I'll share music with you. Like, I think it's a gift that
Is
was
it?
given to me, and I love sharing it with deserving people. You know what I mean? And there's been instances where I've shared it with people who grow to resent you because you have the ability to share something and and help people. Um, Insecure people take it, they see it as, maybe a threat, or they're just resentful that they can't do that. But the other thing I tell my family is like, don't let them change you. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, I'm never going to help anyone ever again because it always bites me on the ass. You can't do that because then you're letting them change you, So that's how I try to bring it to other people, is just by giving. My family gets off more on giving than receiving. That's the absolute truth. I don't care. I don't want gifts. I'd rather give you something than receive something. As corny as that may sound.
No, it's very true because when we give, we do receive.
Yeah, and even with the music, if I help somebody with something, or write something for someone, and and allow them to use it and play it, and um, it brings me joy. I don't care if there's money attached to it. That's not I'm not motivated by that.
Right. And that's very key because when we give, when we give with the intention of just giving and not receiving, then it's more valuable to everybody involved,
Absolutely.
and you actually get more. I mean, Gabby Bernstein, I love Gabby Bernstein. She's one of those where it's like, if you donate $1 to like St. Jude, look at how many people you could be potentially helping. And it's like just that $1 or that $5, and you get nothing in return other than knowing that you've helped other people.
Yeah, I actually did a benefit show for St. Jude's, and my wife kind of spearheaded that because she's a cancer survivor, and I wanted to do a local show, and we said, you know what, we'll do it, and we'll donate the money to St. Jude's, and it was it was packed. The owner was mad at me because the fire marshal came, and I'm like, you have a sold out house here,
Yeah.
and we're doing something for little kids with cancer. What is your deal? So it's pretty funny. Like, we were doing something amazing, and we felt very blessed to be able to do it. And the owner of the club is selling tons of alcohol with a packed house and yelling at me because, oh,
The fire
somebody,
marshal came.
now the fire marshal's gonna come on it. I'm like, wow, this guy's really broken. Actually, it was a woman, but you know, we were in shock. I go, you're yelling because I sold the place out. Okay.
But sometimes that happens. I mean, though, some people have flashbacks of the Great Whites incident. So if it was a small
Yeah.
venue, they
Yeah.
might have like a big concern over that. But at the same time, you did twofold. You brought in a lot of people to her place and you helped kids with cancer. And in
Yeah.
hindsight, she's probably like, oh, this was a great event when she looked at the end of the night, ring out.
Yeah.
Um, ah, so yeah, I have a quick question. Would you mind if we shared some pictures of the band?
Sure. I can put on my glasses because I'm old.
That's okay. Fair enough. So here we go. So we have, it looks like Run, you and your wife? Or no,
No,
DMC, you and your wife.
DMC Daryl. Yeah. So this is when we were recording a song called Scars, and it's about, instead of hiding your scars, you bear them, and then you can heal. And the cool thing about this session was Daryl heard the music. He didn't know the title, didn't know the subject. So my wife wrote the choruses. He came in with verses, and they were about the same exact subject, which was just a miracle. So
That's some synergy. That's a lot of, that's more than coincidence. That's some synergy with the
yeah,
universe.
well, it's a piano piece with a hip hop drum beat. And when my wife, she wrote the music, she was inspired to write about her scars, and the music must have triggered Daryl to write about his own pain and scars. Just maybe just because of the vibe of the piano. We have like a piano from like 1950s in our house, and it's tuned down really low because it's old. And
Mhm.
it just it's become part of our family. So that picture is huge to me because that's like the launching of my wife's record.
Yes, and she's, to my understanding, is working through in metal as well, getting a lot of this out, all
Oh,
the
absolutely. Yeah. I mean,
pent up emotion, whether it be anger, fear, sadness, and that's the wonderful thing about music. It doesn't matter what genre, it's getting it out and sharing it, because if you're going through it,
yeah.
there is somebody else going through
It's a healthy way for her and anyone who does it to get those feelings out. And you could say whatever you want in a song because, you're not getting sued. It's protected. It's art. You know, you say certain things in an interview, you're getting a cease and desist. You're getting,
it. Mhm.
legal ramifications. And in a song, I could say whatever I want.
We have another photo, and, 1 second. M.O.D. You guys are gonna be in town in a couple weeks here on Long Island, so
Yeah, absolutely.
Canada, so we'll talk about
So
that.
that photo was taken backstage at our last show in Texas. My wife took the shot, and it's great because now it's being used for stuff. And there's a refrigerator to the right of me. There's like a table with food behind the drummer, but he can't see it. But when I see that picture, I see the end of a little, not going to say tour, but a little 4 or 5 day run that we had a lot of fun on. And um, throw some effects on it, and it becomes a cool album, a cool piece of artwork.
And working with, like, you've been with Propane, you, were with
Mhm.
Mutilation, you were with these bands,
Yeah.
and you've also done the solo thing. What do you find the most, I don't wanna say challenging, but the most difficult thing to deal with when you're not, when you're band hopping? You're, like, in this
Okay.
band, and then you're, like, because, like, Scott Ian was an S.O.D, but he was also in Anthrax, and there's kind of, like, at the same time. How do
Mhm.
you juggle being in 2 or 3 different bands and yourself?
Um, because each one has a different purpose for me. Um, Solo project is just bare your soul, win, lose, or draw. But bands like Propane and M.O.D, I had to adapt, but I really had no problem adapting to them because I liked the band and I knew where they were going and I didn't want to change them. So putting your ego aside is huge when working with other people. Even working with my wife, like if I'm her hired musician, it's her project. So when she says too much noodling, or I don't take offense to it. That's the thing. If you put your ego aside, you're here to serve a purpose for those artists. If you're I call myself a session player almost with some of those other projects. And my solo project is the only thing that is my absolute truth. I didn't write for this last MOD record because my brain just wasn't in angry, heavy mode. Um, and I didn't want to fake it. And I didn't also, Billy had a bunch of songs written, and I'm like, I wasn't like, well, I'm in this too. I want to write. I need to get some of my songs on it. Like, no. Uh, the De-Evolution record I wrote with Billy, it was just me and him at the time. So we wrote 50-50 on that whole record. Every song is Moschetti Milano. But when I joined Propane, they already had 2 successful records out. It was known that no one else was going to write for that band, but I presented songs and Gary liked them and we used them. And even with both bands, without being forceful, they know I can sing or yell. They know I can play multiple instruments and write. So on both of those bands, Billy Milano's the main singer, and Gary Mescal is the main singer. Somehow I ended up singing a couple of pieces on Propane's records and writing, and same with Billy. Even on the new record that's not released yet, he pulled out some of the vocals where my backups were, and he goes, "Your voice is going to be featured, like the old De-Evolution record." And so the way I adapt, I bring what I have to the table without being, you have to be able to shift on the fly, and sometimes it stings a little bit. Like I played some really cool stuff on the new M.O.D record, and then I was told to change a few things or pull back a little bit because I didn't hear any vocals yet. I didn't know where the vocals sat.
Vocal part.
So maybe I was stepping on something, or maybe it was just playing too busy. So it's like, can you change this and be, and I'm like, okay, but a weaker person would be like, no, this is it, and I'm very flexible when it comes to other people's. I respect their art. That's the key.
Yeah. So, and here's an older album.
Yep. Yep. So that was taken down by the Statue of Liberty the day we did the back cover for the Evolution record. I remember it. Um, the back cover is us standing in front of the Statue of Liberty. And this was just, we got off the Circle Line boat, got on the island, and the photographer just saw some cool spots and was like, hey, wait, stay here, stay here. Just took a few pictures. But this was the lineup for De-Evolution, the record, and the tour. And I would say that was 1994.
Beautiful. And when you look back at where you started and where you are now and that beautiful journey,
Yeah.
what do you think that has taught you about yourself and peace?
Early on, I was relentless and ruthless and selfish a little bit, but over time, I've definitely pulled back a lot on all of that, and I'm sure it's pretty intense for other people working with me at times because I have tunnel vision and just kind of, but I've calmed down a lot as far as like, um, when you hear something in your head, I can transfer that or transpose that very quickly, but you got to realize that other people aren't in your brain.
Right.
So the same thing goes on with Billy, right? Like right now we're mixing the record, and I've thought the last 5 mixes were fine, perfect. He's not there yet, and I have to respect it. My first instinct is like, oh my God, what's going on here? But then I'm like, you know what? He hears it in his head. It doesn't sound like that yet. I got to respect that. And it's I've learned a lot and pulled back a lot, and I respect other artists' input a lot, and that's why I do a solo record. I don't have to check with anyone, and my
Beautiful. Way.
wife my wife owns the record company, and I don't have to run things by her creatively. You know what I mean? So it's
That's
adapting
great.
to your environment.
Yes, and here is the De-Evolution album. I do believe I
Yes,
have that one. So.
that record was my second record ever. Recorded in '93, released in '94. The Mutilation record we did before this was, very low budget on a very small label. This one was the first time I was in Pyramid Studios where Anthrax, Overkill, Testament, all the legends recorded. SOD, MOD. It was the first time I got paid to be on a record like in advance. All any gear I needed was there and taken care of, and I had a roof over my head the whole week I was there recording, and it was the best experience ever. And then tying into that photo was the day we took the other photo, the previous, for the back cover. It's just I look at that record and it was like my coming of age because I put everything I had into that record as far as vocals and bass. And I may have, looking back now, I may have overplayed a little bit on most of the stuff, but I was really just trying to make a name because I took it very serious. I
Yeah,
still
it's
do,
your
but
craft.
it took, yeah, I'm different about it now. But then was like every song, this was, I was writing this. We had played Europe. We did a tour of Europe when I first joined to tour a record that I wasn't on, Rhythm of Fear. So I joined in '92. We toured that record, and then me and Billy just started writing for the next record. And to get ready for it, every song that came on MTV in like 1993. I didn't care what it was, from TLC to anything. I would just watch TV and play along to it and try to pick up other techniques. And because this was the biggest moment of my life, doing that. And I that's how I handled it. And I see that record, and that's the coming of age record.
And that was a jumping point, it seems like, and has taught you a lot.
Absolutely.
A lot. Here is Prisoner to No One. That is very intense artwork.
Yeah, so I came up with that cover idea. So that me laying on the ground, that's me in, hypothetically just saying, that's me 2015, months after my brothers had passed. That was me on the ground, just defeated, deflated. And then me shooting up, like with strength and power, is what writing all that stuff did. It gave me new life, So I was dead in the water before I met my wife, before I wrote this record. I was just completely broken, and I don't want to say near death, but contemplating it. My mom still being alive prevented that, and then meeting my wife and daughter, just completely kiboshed that entire idea. Like, no way, I'm here to stay.
And that's a beautiful thing, because
Yeah,
sometimes
man.
we need the external help from heaven, and that sounds like they were a gift.
Yeah, man. Two different people in that cover.
Yes. Yes. And so, as you look back at all of this, and I like to ask what's in your toolbox. And this really comes in, and I like to try and put you in a scenario that is appropriate for you. So if you're going on stage and you notice that, whether it's somebody who's trying to get everything going and all over the place, and you notice that they're stressed out, or like, okay, if this person doesn't calm down and get centered and find some peace, something bad might happen, whatever that may be, sandbag falls or what have you. The first thing that came to mind. What is your go-to for you that might help them?
All right, perfect example. Billy Milano. Everybody knows him, and it's not an act. He is certifiably insane, and we love him. That's who he is. So if we're arriving at a show, and we don't have road crew and all this stuff, we load our own gear, set up our own gear, set up our own merch, all that stuff. I know, I've known the guy for 30 plus years. So when I see him going off the rails, the first thing I do is like either start busting his chops about how ridiculous he looks for making something out of nothing. You know what I mean? Like, I'll make a joke about it, and the best cure for anything is laughter. So there are times when you would swear like he's either going to jail or he's going to kill somebody. And then I make a joke or do something stupid, and we all laugh at it, and it goes away. So laughter is the best medicine for anything. And even in my house, things are going a little left of center. A little levity always snaps us out of it. Always.
That is important to remember. I think that is very overlooked.
Well, you're in control of where it goes. Like, you could continue this anger and misery and destruction because it's destructive. Things come out of your mouth that you can't take back. You make a stupid joke. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's worth taking the risk because, you know, when you're screaming and yelling and all of a sudden you're laughing, you start to think of the absurdity of like, what are we doing here? All right, let's just, you know.
Well, like you said, you can't, once the words come out, you can't stuff them back in. They're out.
Yeah, the genie's
Oh,
out of the bottle. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So
no,
um,
no, that's
laughter is like my family and my household. It's key. You know what I mean? Like you could either be miserable or you could be laughing. It's up to you.
very,
It
very
takes more effort to be miserable than to be happy. That's for sure.
true. True. And being happy. I know that for a lot of musicians, being happy on stage, like you're very happy on stage, and you've got some dates coming up. I personally, I know the one in Amityville here in New York on the 11th of December. What else do you have coming up?
The next day will be in Clifton, New Jersey at Dingbats. Then the day after that will be in Connecticut at the Cellar on Treadmill or Treadwall, something like that. But and then the Sunday after the Saturday show, Sunday is at Lucky 13 in Brooklyn.
Okay, so pretty much tri-state area for the next few weeks.
Yeah, the last run was like a Texas run. Now we're gonna do a New York run, and I think next is supposed to be like Illinois or like Chicago or Milwaukee or something to that effect. But that'll be after the new year. Um,
Beautiful.
the Europe thing we got to do condensed 30 shows, 30 days. But
Oh
in
wow.
America, we'll do Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Stuff like that, just so we can go back to like our normal lives during the week. There's no reason to play Tuesday night in like I don't know, Macon, Georgia on a Tuesday. Like, it doesn't make sense for us to do that. Like we want it to be special, and MOD's a bit of a novelty act, so it's like too much of it. It's not special anymore. You know what I mean?
Right.
Long Island, I do believe the last time MOD played there was when I was in the band back in '94, opening for Propane. So Long Island, it's been a long time since we've been there. So hopefully they come out on a Thursday to check it out, because who knows when we'll be back.
Right. We do have one more old school image.
Okay, let me see this. Ah, I don't even have to put my glasses on for that. Okay, so that is the band Molester. That's the band I started in like 1987 with like, best friend still to this day, Ron Calandrea, who's the drummer. And he's the one who brought me into Mutilation. Yeah, even though like we let him go from Molester, when he formed a better band and needed a bass player, he spearheaded getting me in, because you know
That's great.
me and him had a goal, and so we're like 17. I think I'm 17 in that picture, 18 at the most. And me and him said we need to have a record by the age of 21, or it's not going to work. And because of mine and his persistence, because it has very little to do with material, or it's there's way more involved in getting a record deal than that. Persistence and drive, and he possessed that, and so did I at that time. We just were relentless, walking around New York City with packages, going to every record label, getting rejected by every record label. And our record deal fell in our lap from a live show, and it wasn't even our best show. They happened to walk in at the second half of that set, but the first half was the first song was a nightmare.
Oh no.
Um, but we just persistence. We just kept going and going and going, and then the record label walked in halfway through the set, and then I'm the one who got the call, and it was the call I've been waiting for my whole life. From a record company saying we love the band, and I can never relive that moment ever again. But luckily, I've had many moments in my life that I could say that was the greatest day of my life. That was the greatest day of my life. Like, if you have one of those in your existence, you're lucky. And I'm blessed to have had them numerous times.
And that's wonderful. And on that note, is there anything you want to share or say about the subject of peace?
Yeah. The only way you could really obtain it from my perspective
Mhm.
is to like my wife says, honor your feelings. If you want to cry, cry, because all that stuff is pent up in you. You got to get it out. So the only way to have peace, you have to be, your soul has to be clean. If you have all that stuff pent up inside you, it's never going to come. So cry it out, yell it out yourself, write music that lets you get this out of you. It's healthy to get rid of it. If you keep it all inside, you're going to eventually snap. You know what I mean? So that's the only thing I could honestly say is, it's not even my statement, it's my wife's. Honor your feelings. She tells it to her friends all the time. If they're going through cancer treatments or this or that, just, if you feel like crying, fucking cry. If you feel like screaming, scream. You have to get it out of you, because I didn't, when my brothers passed, I kept it all in because I had to be the strong one of the family. It damaged me because I wasn't allowed to mourn. Mourning is healthy. You
Morning
know,
is
you can't keep it all inside of you, because it broke me, and it destroyed me and almost took me out. You have to answer, like, your body speaks to you, and you have to listen.
100%. I love your wife's advice, and I love that you shared it with us. Thank you so much.
Anytime.
And it was an honor to have you on
it
today.
was
And
a very cool interview. It was different than anything I've ever done, but it's the truth, and I've never hid from that. So I love it.
thanks. Great advice. Thank you. And if you are on Long Island and are looking for something to do on Thursday the 11th, come and check out M.O.D in Amityville. You'll be with Lockdown, and it will be a very cool show. Thank you,
Yep.
everyone. Rob, I'm going to put you in the green room. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool.
So thank you, everyone, for joining us today on Unique Peace. This was a fun conversation, and I hope that you've all learned and grown and appreciated metal and how peaceful it can be just for your emotional and mental well-being. Next week, I have Dr. Amy Robinson on, and the conversation will be very exciting as she bridges the reality of 3D and the reality of the ether and how they actually meld in today's world. Thank you, and I look forward to seeing you next week.